Well, to discuss the implications of fresh sanctions against Iran, let's now talk to James Corbett, editor of the independent news website The Corbett Report, based in Japan. Thanks for coming on RT today. Do you think this new round of sanctions will achieve anything when it comes to resolving the nuclear program crisis in Iran?
Well, that's assuming that there is a crisis to be resolved. It's interesting to see what will happen here because, as has been noted, this is likely to affect Europe at least as much as it will affect Iran, if not more so. And certainly in the current energy climate, I think it will be easier for Iran to replace its European exports with exports to other countries than it will be for Europe to find imports from other sources. But certainly we do see that this will have a crippling effect on some of the European economies themselves, as has been noted. Roughly one-third of Europe's one-third of Iran's exports of crude oil actually go to Europe at this point, and a full 80% of that export demand in Europe is taken up by four countries: Turkey, Italy, Greece, and Spain. Three of which are part of the so-called PIGS countries that are already teetering on the edge of economic collapse. So it's very interesting to see this move that is likely to hurt Europe, as I say, at least as much as it hurts Iran.
Now, regarding, let's just step aside from the energy issues here. Let's talk about that of saber rattling. Iranian media says the country's senior official has already said that Tehran could definitely close the vital oil transit route in the Strait of Hormuz because of the oil embargo. Today, we're seeing stories: another American warship, a French warship, a British naval destroyer, all of them now heading into the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran goes ahead with the threat to shut down the waterway, what's next?
If it were to go ahead with that threat, I think the military, some sort of military strike would have to be in order. That would be too much of a provocation to go unnoticed. But for that very reason, I find it extremely unlikely that Iran is actually going to start the hostilities in that manner. I think it's far more likely that they would use that if military intervention had already started in Iran, or if the sanctions had become economically unsupportable. But I find it very difficult to believe that Iran will actually use that sort of nuclear option, so to speak. I realize they have been certainly escalating things in terms of the saber rattling recently, but I think that's really more of a putting their card on the table to try to stave off any sort of military intervention or some of these sanctions.
Now, in the past 2 years, Iran has allowed the IAEA into its country for a number of different investigations into so-called nuclear plants. It's also signed 3 anti-nuclear agreements over the past 12 months. With these these ultimately Western warships going into the Strait of Hormuz, are we seeing just a basic game of political chess or even a provocation here?
Well, I think there's no doubt there is some provocation and some testing of the waters, quite literally and figuratively, going on right now. And certainly with Iran's recent threats to block the Strait of Hormuz, now we see the Americans sending ships through there to sort of test the defenses, so to speak. So I think there is definitely some cat and mouse going on right now. And I think at this point it is saber rattling and testing, both sides testing to see how far the other is going to go. And as I say, at this point, I would be extremely shocked to see Iran actually pulling out the option of mining or otherwise blockading the Strait of Hormuz, because that seems to me that's pretty much the last card up their sleeve. So I don't think they'd want to put it on the table too early.
And very briefly here, we're running very low on time. I apologize for that. Finally, if the new sanctions fail to work again, could we be back to the older stalemate position? What's the way out of that?
Well, oddly enough, I think the further that Iran is pushed into a corner here, the more their position will strengthen over time as they develop alternative routes out for their oil exports. If they, for example, increase their trading partnership with China or Russia and India, as we've seen in recent days, they've been scrambling to establish exchanges in other currencies, including their local currencies, including even asking India to trade in Japanese yen. So we could see really a fundamental shift in the entire dynamic of this energy export economy that's taking place right now, and it could actually serve to benefit Iran in the long run from getting them off of their dependence on the petrodollar.
James Corbett of the news website The Corbett Report, live from Osaka. Thank you.